Hello everyone, this is Dragon001 and I am David Bowie. Actually no. I just wanted to cover this real quick because I wanted to show the dance. It's pretty fun. But today we're going to be talking about learning a new hero. So we're going to be going through each hero and giving tips on how to best start out playing them, as well as general tips overall. So let's start out with the main general tips and we'll go on to each character. So the main things is, and it sounds kind of stupid to say, but when you want to learn a new hero, the best way to know is to understand how the pros play it. And then you can understand how you want to play it. So that's why I say check up on guides and everything. And I have a few guides on my channel through Strat Chat to help out with character ideas. It goes from basic to advanced, and basically understand those. Most of the times the guides you'll get are basic, unless you go onto a coaching YouTube channel. So like if you're watching Stylosa, you'll get a basic guide. If you're watching Overwatch Central, you'll get a basic guide. And this will help you out starting, but then you're going to want to understand how to play the character better. And so to do that, you're going to want to look at streamers who are Overwatch League players. So like watching XQC to learn Winston, watching Kabaji to learn Tracer. He does play-by-play Tracer guides throughout his live streams. I suggest watching him. You have One Amongst Many and Jane Overwatch who do basically VOD reviews. And then you have IOStucks who does coaching guides on YouTube. So there's many different places you can find, and of course here as well, that can help you learn new heroes through the guides. But let's say you've watched them all, you know how people play them, but you want to understand how you can best practice them and get really good. And the main reason is you want to create an identity for yourself. You want, because a character isn't always played a certain way. And you want to understand how you best get value out of them, especially in your own elo. And so you want to go in, and you want to go into like the practice range like I am right now. I'm in the practice range. And you want to just play around, understand different ways you want to practice. And so you just kind of get a feel for the mechanics of the character and the flow. So like Doomfist is a good example, is you want to basically practice some of the stuff, the flow, understanding cooldowns and all that stuff. Getting that down, not just like going for mechanics, but just understanding fluidity of the characters and figuring out how to best use them. Baguette's a good example for this, all that kind of stuff. And then basically going from there. And so let's go over each class. So of course we have the offense, defense, tank support. And then some people offer them under DPS, tank and support, which is a more generic. We're going to go into the more specific class setup of starting out with the projectile heroes. So let's go ahead. This is the most iconic projectile hero just because it's so obvious. So projectiles are basically you shoot. Whenever you shoot at a speed and not instantly, whereas hit scan shoots immediately, and it hits immediately. It's like a laser gun. This isn't a laser gun, and you have to lead your targets. If you want to learn these a little bit better, and your aiming's bad, I suggest checking out hit scans first and then going to these, because it's harder to get a good accuracy down on this. But when you do hit scans, you know it's instant, but then you can adjust to having a lead in for projectiles, and that will help you out. So what you want to do is you just want to go around practice. For like Pharah specifically, this is an idea, is being able to knock and hit someone midair. That's a good practice tool. And understanding what skills people have with the characters and basically going through of, okay, what do I want to do? So like being able to hit shots midair as Pharah, pretty nice, all that stuff. But yeah, just play around, and of course play aggressive, play passive, and then try to mix. Use all your abilities, be conservative with your abilities, rotate those around as you play. Hit scans, basically they hit as you shoot. You don't have to worry about leading them that much. There is a lead for just the idea of as they're moving across you. You want to hit a little bit in front of them as opposed to behind them, but that's it. So just understanding the hit scans and stuff like that. Basically, play Soldier to start out with because he's less frustrating than playing a hero with low rate of fire and high burst. Because what happens is you'll miss more than you hit. So like playing Soldier, Sombre, Tracer with a high rate of fire works a little bit better in understanding those. But yeah, that's the big thing with DPS. And then of course we have our tank players. So we have the main tank, and the main thing with the main tank is you want to be consistent. You want to be consistent for your team, actually. And the main idea is, so like, let's say you're in a Rein v Rein fight, and you want to make sure that the Rein can't predict your Earth Shatter. So you want to kind of fake him out and try to block it, all that kind of stuff. But you want to do that when someone behind you can't die. You want to make sure that you're consistent. And so with that, you'll do stuff of like, oh, my shield's going down, dropping barrier, 3, 2, 1, dropping barrier. And that means anyone who's an idiot will die immediately. People who actually listen will step back. It won't always happen, but that's the life of Overwatch, is sometimes people won't follow what's going on, and then they just die. So keeping that consistency, not rotating the barrier drastically and leaving your team to die, not charging for no reason, and leaving your team to die. You want to be the protector of your team. So that's the main thing with main tank, is you want to make sure that no one dies. If anyone takes any damage and you're supposed to be protecting them, it's on you. Now on to off tank. So off tank is a mix between DPS and, of course, tank. And the main idea is you want to create space. And I've mentioned this before, is people say create space in a very vague term, and it's very difficult to figure out what the heck they're actually saying. The main reason is you are a high health pool character with good burst and damage mitigation in some cases. And so what you want to do is you want to push in and cause disruption. And what happens is, so let's say I jump up here, I'm here in their face. What happens is if I'm knocking them around and I'm creating a big presence where I'm the only one taking damage or whatever, then what happens is our other characters have a better time dealing with them. Plus, on the other side is if they dive onto us, I can go over to them and create space for the people that on my team who are getting dove and they need help. And that's called peeling. Other characters like Roadhog, you want to work on basically your shots and then figuring out you're creating space in a different way than Diva, because Diva can fly around. What you're doing is you're creating space very much like a DPS creates space, but you have high sustain and a high health pool. And so you're basically going through and you're just dealing damage and you're getting hooks and you're moving people around and you're causing problems. Your ultimate pushes people back and creates space for your team to not get killed, because if you're creating pressure, then that means on the other side is without a barrier, a proper barrier, the pressure isn't removed. Very much like a Widow. A Widowmaker creates a ton of pressure, but if there's a barrier, the pressure gets removed from where that barrier is. So that's why Ryan is pretty good against a Widowmaker because of that, and of course Winston because of his bubble. So all of that, let's cover Zaria. Zaria does a similar thing. She creates space by, of course, protecting her team with, of course, bubble, and also having that damage output. And then, of course, your ultimate creates a lot of opportunities, and you do that. Winston's a weird main tank, and the main idea is you want to basically play him like an off tank. It's very weird. When people will call Winston a main tank, I call him an off tank, because that's what you do. You're not really standing around your team, dropping the barrier, making sure that they're not dying. What you're doing is you're going in, creating space by jumping on people, and creating a void in which you are creating pressure and not allowing the enemy in. And then you're going back and you're helping peel, all that stuff. You're more of an off tank role. But there's technical things with it in understanding. But the main thing is if you're a main tank, you want to protect your team, and you want to be consistent and give information. For off tanks, you want to basically go and help your team and support them in many different ways. And so, like, let's say, so how do you want to practice main tank? So practicing main tank is pretty decent. Basically, you can be over aggressive, and then I want you to be very passive. Like, don't just walk with your team and everything and try your best to be as passive as possible, and then try to do a mix. Understand where there's opportunities and apply your aggression, and we've done a video on that. I have to make the reference every time, but apply your aggression in many specific ways. And in order for you to understand how to apply your aggression, you need to play both aggressive types. You need to be aggressive and you need to be passive at some point, and practice those so that you can understand how to alternate between the two. And then as a main tank, you want to pick someone or queue with someone and basically give them opportunities by stopping spam damage and all that stuff and protecting them. And that's the main thing there. Wow, I really should have gotten water. I'm like, ugh, about to die. As an off tank, what you want to do is I prefer Diva as a practice. But like for an off tank, what you want to do is you want to see opportunities and where you can be disruptive. You're basically going to knock people around. You're going to jump in. Divas should really be everywhere. You knock people off of high ground. You give pressure into many different ways. You block damage that's coming in to protect some of your teammates. Zaria, you're blocking damage for people by bubbling them, and it protects them. Figuring out how you want to do stuff, if you want to charge or if you want to protect people, understanding where those opportunities come in. All there, Hog, creating space by creating pressure and zones and sustaining through it. All of that stuff, practicing that stuff. And with tanks, I suggest practicing next to a person. Basically, follow a Mercy around and say, I'm going to bubble her and make sure she's not going to die. Every single time. So what you're going to do is you're going to save your bubble for the Mercy, and you're going to walk her around, do damage. Let's say Winston jumps in. You jump in and you try to block damage for him. And you basically disrupt him, knock him around, and make him realize he can't kill you and he has to leave. All the stuff with that. So that's the main things with off tank. Let's go over to support. Of course. So there's many different types of... There's two types of supports. I'm not covering Symmetra, screw her. So there is... A lot of people interchange what they call it, but I call a main healer and a tech healer. And really, it doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter. A lot of people consider Mercy as a main healer. And it's true. She heals, and it's very consistent, and single target, and stuff like that. What you want to understand with a healer, foremost, is how to not die. And understand how to not be as aggressive. And what you want to do is you want to play games with, like, Ana, where you just snipe the entire time. Oh, I forgot I have the regular skin because I did a thumbnail with Ana. Actually, no, I didn't. I did the meme Fresh Prince of Overwatch video. But what you want to do is you want to be very passive. And you want to understand what you need to do. Spend a couple of rounds only healing your teammates. And then spend a couple of rounds. Of course, I'm saying all this in quick play. Spend a couple of rounds doing damage. And then spend a round being very passive, while also dealing damage when there's an opportunity, and understanding where you go there. And the main idea is you want to be healing them a lot. And so I kind of consider her a main healer, but she can alternate. Of course, you have Lucio. I consider him a tech healer. Well, okay. Let's change the definitions. There's a main healer and there's a second healer. And the second healer's job is to make sure the main healer doesn't die. And so second healers are Zenyatta. Because Zenyatta doesn't have a lot of healing output, but enough to keep up another healer. You have Lucio, who can peel. You have Brigitte, who can peel. Main healers I usually consider are Ana, and Mercy and Moira. Sometimes Zenyatta gets thrown in the main healer slot. It doesn't really matter with a Zen Lucio comp. Really, you don't need to build a comp around that. But what you want to understand is if you are a secondary healer, you want to try to protect people very much like an off tank while also healing. And so that's the main reason why the new playstyle of Lucio has come up recently with the Overwatch League and, of course, Apex, is because of moving around and protecting people. Whereas main healers, what they want to do is they want to make sure that they're healing and they're basically using their tool set and all of that kind of good stuff. So basically practice the healing, and then like with the secondary supports, practice your utilities and practice helping out people. And so you're kind of a mix between an off tank and a support, and that's basically the main thing. Okay, that was excruciating. Now we're gonna go through each hero class. Actually, no, we have the last one, which is the people who don't fall under any others, where they are very different in how they work. And so mainly it's Doomfist, Symmetra, all that kind of stuff of where how they work is a bit different. And a lot of these are very much of how the hero plays. There's not a lot of transferable stuff. Same thing with Mercy, is there's not a lot of transferable ideas because she's not shooting that often. But let's go ahead and how do you practice Doomfist? So the main thing to practice with Doomfist is his animation cancel to make him fly further after using his right click in, and then you want to practice of using your abilities and understanding and timing your cooldown. So don't out loud count, but what you want to do is go like, okay, the uppercut and slam are on the same cooldown time. Right click is half of that. So go, okay, I can right click, do damage and stuff, do this, knock him in the air, and then I have this back. And just understand that. Understand fluidity and figure that out. And then understand when you're fighting how to get out. And that's pretty much the main things with Doomfist. I'm not going into huge stuff with this, but just how to get started. Ginji, understand how to hit shots. And practices is like getting close to targets and using right click very often. And then also play the game of who can I dash reset through. And basically if someone's low on health, it doesn't matter if you were the one to shoot them or not, but understand that like, oh hey, that guy over there I can kill instantly, boom. And just find those opportunities and spend time doing that. Of course, understand with like timing and stuff of like blocking, work on your leading targets, very much just kind of track them. So like there's flick aiming, there's tracking, where you're just kind of following them, but track at a distance so that you can do that, where you have the lead in already calculated in, and so it's pretty nice that way. McCree, what you want to do is you want to practice hitting shots, and that's pretty much it. Is you just want to go through, hit shots, and get all of that good. Aim for headshots, get into good positioning, get close enough so that you don't have fall off damage, but not far enough that you end up with fall off damage. Use high ground, all that stuff. Farah, practice staying in the air. And what you want to do is you want to flutter, and then you rocket. And what happens is you can sustain here for quite some time if you're just constantly doing this. Boom. And it's very like workable. So you don't want to just like do this because it's not going to help you. You want to just kind of every so often just think of it as like whenever you shoot, hover. So just constantly shoot, and that's the timing you want. So just when you shoot, just tap it for like half a second. So tap, let go, tap, let go, up, tap, let go, tap, let go, tap, let go. And you just get that fluid motion in, and you'll get working pretty good. Other things is just leading your targets, trying to get your headshots, and then getting close when you're using your ult because it has a bloom and you do more damage the closer you are. Reaper, you want to be up close and personal, and basically only use your teleport out of combat. Otherwise, you have a short time in which they can shoot you. I'll actually demonstrate that here. Let's see if I can actually do this real quick. Yeah, you see I got shot a little bit. That's why. And then you want to get close, and as you can see, like, watch this. You see where my bloom is with the lines. You notice how much he takes up the space. If I get closer, oh wow, I hit all shots that close, and I can pretty much one-shot people. So you want to get as close as you can, and you do more damage. So figuring all that out, and then just timing everything right. Get practicing with abilities. Soldier 76, very much like McCree. Practice your shots. Practice your strafing when running, and then of course practice your rockets, and then understand that you can help peel as well. If you're standing next to a support, you can put down a healing field and help them out, and then you want to stay on high ground most of the time, and it's pretty quick and simple. For those of you who have played a lot of games like Call of Duty and all that kind of stuff, that's an easy one to work on. Sombre, what you want to do is you want to practice a couple things. The first thing you want to do, and it's the easiest thing to do, is hack a health pack, put down your teleporter, and then go invisible, run over to a target, shoot, and then do this until you're in trouble, and then now you're back to the health pack, you get healing, and you rinse and repeat. That's the way to do it. And then if you want to get a little fancy, you can practice your jump shots to hack people. You can do this with Pharah. If you have a friend who plays Pharah, who is able to play Pharah, you can have them jump in and basically have you run around and hack them all the time. You can use this to get up closer and do a bunch of stuff. If you do not need to jump back to a place, but it doesn't really matter that much in some cases, to go back, and then just practice your aiming and aim towards their chest so that when it blooms, you get an equal chance, and if they duck, you also don't have a lot of shots going over their head. Pretty nice. Tracers, pretty much similar, and basically what you want to do is you want to do exactly like Doomfist. Understand how to get in and understand how to get out, and you want to conserve your cooldowns. So like I've used all my cooldowns, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to get into a fight. I'm going to wait for them to come back. I have a good amount to come back that I can do stuff. And then I'm going to just jump around. Wow, lag is insane. And then I'm going to do... And I'm going to time this on when they all come back. And if I need to, I do this. And then basically practice that dash and rotate and getting that rotation going. And so this is where like arm aiming comes into mind, is you want to understand how you can do this and then work through all of that. Work on animation cancel, all that stuff. Get that down before you work on aiming. Aiming is very similar to Sombre, where you want to aim for their neck because of the bloom goes up. Bastion is basically hit scan through and through, so if you've played Soldier, this one's an easier one to pick up. You want to basically move around, and if you're in a good position where you know you can deal a ton of damage, turret down and rotate and just go through there. Make sure you're moving constantly and resetting in a different spot, because a good team will start focusing the position they think you're in. And so if they lose a fight, they'll come back and just run straight to where you killed them. Hanzo, what you want to do is you want to practice his arrows and getting that down. You want to also practice, there's a couple of things with jump shots, so charge and then go up, and then hitting shots, so jumping off of walls and then hitting shots, doing all that kind of stuff, peeking over walls and then hitting shots, all that kind of stuff. Get that practice in and do all that kind of stuff. I know I personally get rusty on Hanzo if I haven't played him for long enough, but of course you can get good on him. And then practice if you need the leap to go. Start climbing before it comes back up, and then it'll probably say like boom. It'll come back in time if you need to get away. That's pretty nice as well. Just a little fun tidbit of a fact. Junkrat, you want to practice your arc shots. If you play Zaria, this will help out. plus wise, if you want to play Zaria, this will help out as well. And just getting those arc shots in, figuring out good placement on your traps, understanding motion when you do this, and then practicing on your one shot there. And then also practice on how to maneuver your tire by jumping wall to wall and stuff like that. They pretty much be Spider-Man. Projectiles with Mei, understanding how to hit them and the timing on them because they charge up. Very much like a Hanzo shot, but are icicles. And so they do all of that. And they're a little less controllable. And then you want to basically get the idea of freezing and the range of freezing. You freeze them up and then boom, get the headshot. Make sure you get the headshot. All that kind of stuff. And then understanding fall off damage. Practice on fall off and all that stuff because it does exist. And then of course practice your wall placement. And then figuring all that stuff out. Time this to block. All that kind of stuff. Pretty much get that all moving. So basically timing with Mei is a good thing. Torbjorn, basically turret placement, making sure that you're constantly throwing out armor. Once you get it, don't save it unless you're losing the point, because then you're not going to need it standing on the point, but you're going to need it around. All that kind of good stuff. Practice your shots because they arc very much like Hanzo shots. And then practice your shotguns at close range, all of that stuff. Widowmaker, I want you to practice timing your shots so that you get full charges up to the point. And so you also want to practice your jump shots as well. And then your placement of this to cover your tracks. And then, of course, practice your dismounts off of hook. So if you hold the spacebar mid-hook, you can actually continue your jump. And then, of course, let's say I do this. Practice on finishing targets with a machine gun instead of trying to hit another shot if they're low health. And get all of that down. Diva, practice shooting and comboing your stuff. Basically, figure out timing on defense matrix and priority with it. Understanding who you're playing against and if you're going to need to block a big thing pretty soon. Like a hog ultimate or something like that. Understanding weapon spread with this. Understanding the fall off damage and how all that works. And then understanding positioning as well. And diva bombs. Throwing them, understanding where to put them, and all that stuff is the better. And just practicing those over and over again. Rishta, you want to practice throwing your shield around. Because I play her differently. If you want more insight, I suggest you check out my guide on Rishta, because I actually suggest using her shield mobily like this. And so you don't have it directly in front of you, but you rotate it around so that if they dive past the bubble or walk past it, you can put down another one and you get the same effects as opposed to them just walking into you and then you lose, because you create space where your barrier is. Fun fact. So like they don't want to walk past here yet because they have to get through this barrier. But if you have it farther up, then what happens is you can force them into 2 times that stuff. Also practicing this, getting that good, timing your fortify, and then figuring out placement with your ultimate. I like around corners with my ults and peeking out so that for them to get it, they have to go completely around the corner. That's pretty nice. It just disappeared and spawned. I didn't know that could happen. Reinhart, what you want to do is you want to practice hitting your fire strikes, and then you want to practice using your shift ability, jumping, and then aiming, and just maneuvering around. I suggest not using it too often because you leave your team alone. And then practicing the barrier duels and making sure that your barrier is constantly recharging and all that stuff, making it pretty good and decent. So yeah, and then also protecting people, making sure you're protecting people first. Roadhog, practice your accuracy on hooks, and then practice your alteration or whatever, altering of your right clicks with your left clicks, because if I'm using my right click here, okay, you can see it doesn't bloom out, but it does at that range. So what you want to do is you want to understand range to alternate between your right clicks and your left clicks. And it will allow you to do more damage so that you don't do this. And you can do that instead. And it's a lot nicer. And then practicing your hooks, getting timing down, and then all of that stuff. And also making sure that you understand the ammo you have. So I have 5 shots. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you do not want to do this. And that's why. Getting that down. Because it's much better. Winston, I suggest practicing your leaps, understanding trajectories and all that kind of stuff. And then also practicing blocking stuff with your barrier. Preferably cooldowns, not necessarily damage, or to protect you in case you are in bad peril. Now I also suggest practicing your short leaps, which is you hold S and you leap, and basically what happens is you go a shorter distance. And then also on leaping standards, I suggest practicing landing on people directly and meleeing them, getting that combo down. And then next thing is practicing just like that, the leaps up to different edges. And then with your ultimate, practice hitting your targets in the direction you want to go during your ult to knock them back, instead of just flailing around randomly, and then controlling your movement. And that's usually the better. Zaria, I suggest practicing understanding when to bubble and when someone's about to take a ton of damage and they need to bubble, and basically use it sparingly. Understand why you need to use it and all that kind of stuff. And then also try to hit multiple targets with your right click because it charges your ult faster. And then of course practice on your tracking with your left click and doing stuff like left, right click, alternating between the two. So that you can get the highest DPS output and also knock people around. That's pretty nice. And then understanding grav placements and grav timing and getting the most out of it. Ana, practicing hitting both your projectile and your hit scan. And I suggest basically taking multiple times to practice this. Her projectile is very important because it does not leave a trail. And as you can see a little tracer trail right there. Not an actual tracer character, but the actual term tracer trail. Whereas the projectile doesn't do that, but it is a projectile, so it does not hit like a hit scan. You see, it just missed. It just missed again, but that works. And then also practicing your quick scopes, like that, and getting that all the way down. Your nade trajectory, very much like a Junkrat, and then practicing your sleep darts and how to get the most value out of that. So there's a lot of stuff with Ana because you also need to understand how to balance healing and damage. Baguette, basically how to combo and doing the quick shield bash where you right click and then basically you quick right, you do this and you quick right click and then you quick left click, and then animation cancel your flail with shift. Also you can animation cancel Reinhardt's hammer with your shield or by using Fire Strike. Kind of fun stuff. And then basically getting that all down, using yourself to the fullest. Lucio, practice wall riding and jumping in between each stuff. Some people will do this constantly, and it's because they watched a video with DPS Stanky, or DSP Stanky as he's actually called, but people will call him DPS Stanky. Where he would alternate like that. Well, the big thing that I suggest is understand why, and you'll understand it's usually because there's you need to heal someone, so you jump through like this, and then you heal someone at the last moment to get that healing in, but it's also a momentum carry. So you want to basically sometimes stick on the wall for longer, and so you switch to that, and then if you want far jumps, you do that. It's all good. And so you want to practice that. You also want to practice your one-shot shots, where you basically do this. Switch to this. Oh, I messed it up this time. Let me get it. So you have to hit all headshots, and then do that, and then animation cancel your boop with a melee, and you basically do 150 damage with this, and then you do 50 damage with this. And so you want to try to get those fluid and work on it faster. And then you'll be able to do stuff like that. So that's a lot of the stuff with Lucio, and then also figuring out the timing with your ultimate and restraint with it. Sometimes you don't want to ult because your ult won't save the people. Like if they're hog ult and far ult, you can't do anything. You can't stop. Next thing with Mercy, you want to practice your beams and alternating them, understanding if healing's needed. If not, damage boost to help. Also practice your positioning with your res, and then of course using your spacebar to cancel your fly and then coast out is pretty nice, and then also canceling your fly with shift is pretty nice as well. Also adjusting the settings, because you can adjust the settings for preferring beam target to Guardian Angel, which I do, so that you don't have to have line of sight to get them. And then there's other things as well, like toggling your Guardian Angel is a good thing sometimes or not. It's just up to you. Next thing is Moira, understanding when orbs are needed. So if no one needs healing and you're just entering a fight, this is pretty good to toss in, because it gets you some pretty quick damage in, and understanding placement of them, balancing your healing, and do bursts of healing, because there's a healing over time afterwards. You don't need it all the time. Fun stuff with that, and then timing your shift to dodge stuff is pretty crucial as well. And of course, accuracy with right clicks. Symmetra, I barely want to cover her, mainly just because I hate Symmetra, because I just don't like her playstyle. As well as she's going to be reworked pretty soon, so this might be different. Basically, work on projectile speeds with this, and eventually with her turrets, work on that as well as work on placement, and then your accuracy, because eventually she won't have an auto lock on anymore. So with Zenyatta, what you want to work on is you want to work on your charge shots and understanding trajectories, and basically, you know how I said you want to get that lead in on your targets? This is the best way to get that lead in on them, is to use your charge shots to hit them, and you practice that by doing this, and you can hit a couple of them. I missed a few there. And then practice, of course, your accuracy with, of course, these, and then practice just tossing out your Harmony Orb and your other, and then of course timing your ultimate to the perfect time. But yeah, that's gonna be it. That word towards the end, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it in. I might keep it in, but this has been long enough. It's been about 40 minutes, so thank you for sticking with it. If you have not watched the entire thing, but you get like, but you want to eventually work on any of the heroes that I mentioned before, you can come back to this video and get more insight on it. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. If you have any questions, post them down below. And remember, as always, arrivederci, sayonara, and have a nice day. Bye!